Hello everyone, I am Thomas Johnson, and I'm here to present about communication in architecture. Alright, to start things off, I'm going to explain why I have chosen architecture. I am currently a senior in engineering technology program at UW Stout, so something like this is something I really enjoy. I have also completed my business minor, so I think this area of work is really good for me. And that someday I'd also like to own my own business. And the person that I've interviewed owns his own business, so I figured this is the perfect person to ask, and in this area. And that I think architecture is cool. I've always wanted to learn a little more about it, and today I'm going to share my experience with you. Alright, so the person that I have interviewed is Tony Bauer. He is a residential architect, and he owns his own business in Hudson, Wisconsin, and he's been running for over 2 decades. And he still does all of his work by hand, meaning that he uses pencil and paper. And he does this because he enjoys putting the art back into architecture. Alright, to understand communication and architecture, I have asked Tony these 9 questions, and I will go over each and every one and his response, and I will elaborate on that. So the first question is, when you contact a client, supplier, contractor, or anyone that you may have contacted in business that is business related, what is your typical means of communicating? And Tony has said about 40% are phone calls, 40% are emails, and then the rest of it is about face-to-face and other means. So definitely what I've learned from here is that a lot of his business is just coming from emails and phone calls. And that the other means of communicating could include like snail mail. He did mention that he updates his company website once in a while, and then in the future I will talk about how he also brings up program plans that he shows to his clients to show like what stages he's at with his projects. After that, I asked him what his preferred method of communication is and why. And he said face-to-face, and I'm pretty sure most of us see that face-to-face is probably the best means of communicating, just because that we can get all the information that we need right there in front of the person instead of fighting, phone calls back and forth or sending emails and not getting responses minutes, hours, if not days later, stuff like that. And that it's more personal, like you can, read somebody's facial expressions and show emotion, but which is much better, and you can get more out of it than just getting an email or a phone call or even just a text message. And the next question kind of ties up with the previous question. I asked, do some forms of communication differ from others that you use, and does this difference affect any information that would be conveyed or affect your personal relationships if you were to use any other forms of communication? Elaborate these differences that you experience. Lengthy question, but I pretty much like to explain that without, face-to-face communication, you just don't get, the personal touch that you get, like you do get through an email or a phone call. And this could really end up, misunderstanding someone or misinterpreting any kind of information that is being communicated across between you and the person that you are talking to. And this could be an issue when running your own business. With this next question, it is important to understand that Tony owns his own business and he does not have any subordinates. So this next question is about teamwork. And I asked him, is it difficult working and balancing between clients, and how do you manage working with multiple jobs at once? And to generalize what he stated, it's very important for him to have that face-to-face communication with his clients, because he really wants the end goal when he's working with his clients to have the perfect design that they love. So it's important for him to schedule accordingly, so that he has enough time to talk with his clients and not to, overbook, that he is, that he's overworked with, working with multiple clients at once. With this question, I talked about probably other things that he would use to communicate with clients when it comes to the work being done. Question being, do you share with your clients any kind of planning system that you use to accomplish a goal? I was hoping that he would probably use forms of communication like Gantt charts and step-by-step plans. What he uses is that he does use like some kind of step-by-step plan that he has down on paper that he works out with clients, which just shows the progression of all the work that is getting done for that client, making sure that things are getting done and that that's what it's to their liking, that kind of thing. So there are other forms of communication that he is using here that are written particularly with this step-by-step program that he is using. So this question is pretty interesting. I did understand that Tony has worked on... So this next question is pretty interesting. I asked him, do you have to work with any clients internationally? If so, what different hoops do you have to jump through to accomplish such an amazing goal? And he has worked with a man from Liberia, Africa, and he actually has some homes in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And I think one of the particular projects that he had Tony do was design a home that actually does reside in Africa. Most of the work is the same, communication-wise. The only thing that was probably really different are some barriers he has to jump through that are probably cultural, which I will touch with the next question. So I asked him, did you experience any professional or personal cultural differences when working on this project? If so, what are the easiest and hard parts to work around the differences and what was learned? So some examples of barriers that I mentioned earlier would definitely be like cultural barriers, like language, dialect, those kinds of things. He even gave me a story about, how houses are a little different out in Africa, and he shared that with me, which also is probably very unorthodox to a residential architect, which kind of made things difficult, but it also kept it interesting. Alright, I found this question probably the most important to me, and that is, what skills does it take to communicate to clients that are not as architecturally inclined as you are? And I ask this because I find that I have a similar problem when I am not at school. And to shorten his response, he pretty much just said, be blunt and, try to simplify things a little bit. Try to, clear up any confusion right away. And finally, the last question, how do you stick it out with long-distance clients to get the work done? And pretty much what he said is that, try to communicate as often as you can. Having frequency is really good here because it shows that you're still interested in the client and make sure that you're getting work done. And that try to keep the communication as simple as possible so that there are less chances of miscommunication or any kind of confusion between you and the client. Alright guys, so it's time to wrap it up. So I did create this little pie chart here of, what kind of communication is being used in architecture. And to sum things up, most of the communication used is through phone calls and emails. This is very, very common for him to be making phone calls to clients and to be emailing clients when they are not available to talk person to person. And some less common communication that is involved would definitely be written mail, those kinds of things, which I actually am kind of surprised that still happens between his clients. And some special communication that he's brought up that he uses would be his company website that he's made and social media. And another thing would be probably those program plans that I have mentioned that he uses with his clients to make sure that the work is getting done. It is also important to note that all the communication that is listed that I have here is strictly just between his clients. So this doesn't include people that he contracts with and other people that are outside of his business. And thus concludes communication in architecture. I am Thomas Johnson, and thank you for listening.